GutPunched, Alzheimer's, and Caregivers. Navigating the insidious illness of Alzheimer's is something nobody asks for. The disease sneaks up on you and your loved one, and it feels like you've been sucker punched in the gut. Then you ask, where do we turn for help? Who do we call? What do we do? These questions and more are what we hope to answer and give you some direction and hope. Now let's join our host, Jeff Edwards.
Greetings and welcome. Glad to have you here. This is GutPunched, episode 20. And I can hardly believe it. For me, it's been a bit of a challenge from the beginning when I was smacked in the back of my head, first to get my attention and then to show me the way to go. We have slowly put this podcast together. I still work a full-time job. I'm still a caregiver for my wife. And when I thought that I would be slowing down at the age of almost 74 in a few months, I am working harder than ever before. But it's all been worth it. I believe my faith has been carrying me through the long hours that go into a weekly podcast. I'm using the things I've learned in my many years in radio and television. I'm meeting some terrific, selfless, and helpful people who are always contributing to what we are trying to accomplish. And that is sharing information, resources, and directions for people who have been thrust into a caregiver position and they don't know where to turn for help. That's a scary place to be. But we have to face it head on and reach out to others for as much assistance as possible. We talk about 2 rules all the time that we need to follow. 1, take care of yourself, because if you don't and something happens to you, who's going to take care of your loved one? And 2, you can't do it alone. You need help. Find a caregivers group. They're both good ones, and you should know them and live them when you embark on this journey. But even though they seem simple, they are very strong. GutPunched. What is it? Well, when I began this, I believed that it was and is an emotional reaction to bad news. And you feel it deep in your gut and deep in your soul. It lingers, it stirs, and it hurts. We've tried to include the emotion in each and every episode in some way. Now, as I sat in my caregivers men's meeting this week, I listened to the questions, the concerns, and some answers. But it made me think of a lot of things. But more specifically, I thought, as humans, we are an emotional species. We go through so many emotions, and especially in these meetings. Now, our discussions, they can be sad, funny, heartbreaking, educational. It's a bunch of emotions that are shared, passed around, and talked about. It's part of life, if you're a caregiver. Until you are one, you might not really understand what it takes to be one. And we talk about feelings like depression, longing, sorrow, heartache, fear, compassion, feeling of loss, anguish, loneliness, sorrow, gladness, sadness, depression, sickness, and there's a whole bunch more. So we picked a few emotions to consider. Longing. Longing to be able to have that conversation with your loved one and that they can communicate, remember things after being together for 60 years. You just hope and pray. Sorrow. The way one might feel when your loved one doesn't remember who you are. Heartache. Watching your loved one fading away and there is nothing you can do about it. Fear. The fear of losing a loved one or the fear of losing yourself because your other half is gone. Compassion. Something you have for another caregiver that's in the group who is worse off than you are, and you try and help them through it. Feeling of loss. When your loved one passes and you've been a caregiver for a while, now what do? Your life changes again. Anguish. You're angry. Why me? Why her? You're mad at someone. Loneliness. They're gone. You're alone. Oh, you might have family and friends around, but that special loved one is gone. Gladness. You might hear a story from another caregiver and some progress has been made. Could be something very simple that makes you smile. Sadness. And you're sad over the situation you're in, or your friend is in, or a caregiver who is also having issues. The caregivers' meetings are essential to getting through the journey you didn't ask for. Promise yourself that if you ever find yourself in this situation of being a caregiver, you will find, join, and participate in a caregivers group. you'll be better for it. Promise.
We'll be right back to Gut Punched, Alzheimer's and Caregivers.
Repeat after me. Apple, table, penny.
Apple, red.
When you tell people he has Alzheimer's, but he's in a clinical study, it's
not so hopeless.
Yeah.
Maybe, it's like, I hope we can just hang in there and maybe they'll find something,
Ask me again.
What season is it?
It's when all the leaves down and
I know it's there, but I can't get it.
Yeah.
And it just kills me.
I remember watching Dad interact with the kids and thinking, geez, in 5, 6 years, will he even know who they are? 1 in 10 Americans over 65 has Alzheimer's disease. Learn more today at brightfocus.org.
This is Gut Punched, Alzheimer's and Caregivers.
There's a lot of research being done for Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. And some of the things that have come out just recently, a new nasal spray. That's right, you heard right, a nasal spray. And then there's a shingles vaccine that may lower dementia risk. How do you like that? But on the nasal spray article from Alzheimer's News Today, an expanded use program, also called a compassionate use program, gives a patient access to an unapproved medication outside clinical testing when all other available options have been exhausted or failed to work well. This additional FDA clearance allows Tizenia to also study intranasal formalumab in patients with moderate Alzheimer's who do not qualify for approved therapy, said Gabriel Cerrone, acting CEO and founder of Tizenia. Neuroinflammation, or inflammation of the nervous system resulting from the accumulation of clumps and toxic proteins in the brain and spinal cord, is a hallmark indicator and possibly a driver of Alzheimer's and other neurodegenerative diseases. And the formalumab is an antibody designed to block CD3, a protein on the surface of immune T cells. And blocking CD3 reduces the number of effector T cells, which release inflammatory molecules in response to a potential threat, and it increases regulatory T cells, which keep the immune system from overreacting. And this should ease neural inflammation. Now, the article about shingles comes from Newsmax and it was dated July 26th. And written by Ernie Mundell. Older people who avail themselves to the newest shingles vaccine could reap a benefit, a hidden benefit, a significant drop in their odds of developing dementia. Dementia isn't an inevitable part of aging. It's caused by diseases like Alzheimer's, said Dr. Shiona Scales, Director of Alzheimer's Research at Alzheimer's Research UK. Finding new ways to reduce people's risk of developing these diseases is vital, and this research carried out in large groups of people suggests that people given the shingles vaccine might have a reduced risk of dementia.
We'll be right back to Gut Punched, Alzheimer's and Caregivers.
Are you the caregiver for someone living with dementia? You're not alone.
I was a caregiver for my wife for 10 years, and it was a lot of work.
I'm a caretaker for my wife who has Alzheimer's.
I'm a caregiver of my husband that has CTE, and it's incredibly challenging.
The Dubin Center in Fort Myers has been offering free educational classes and support since 1995.
The Dubin Center has helped me exponentially with so many questions answered. It's just been great.
This is Gut Punched, Alzheimer's and Caregivers.
This episode was a little shorter than most, but we hope you enjoyed it just the same. Gut Punched, episode 20 is in the books, as they say. Just so you know, we'll be taking a couple of weeks off to kind of recharge our batteries and start lining up season 2 with new interviews, information, and a newly designed website, and a whole lot more. Season 2 has got a nice ring to it. We hope that if you know someone who has a family member or friends who are dealing with loved ones who has Alzheimer's or any type of dementia, that you would let them know about this podcast. For more information, you can check out the Alzheimer's Support Network at https:// //alzsupport.org/about us. Or the Dubin Center, dubincenter.com. Now, to find your local chapter of the Alzheimer's Association, you can visit alz.org/local resources/find your local chapter. If you have any questions or thoughts about GutPunched, Alzheimer's, and caregivers, reach out to us. The website is gutpunched.com, and the email address is gutpunchedac@outlook.com. A special shout-out to Rick Peterson, Ora Santana, Gentry Thomas, Dan Moser, the Dubin Center, and, of course, my wife, for their tremendous help and support in making this podcast possible. Thanks for joining us, and please come back again for more. God bless.
This has been Gut Punched, Alzheimer's and Caregivers, with your host, Jeff Edwards. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to us on all the platforms like Spotify, Apple, Pandora, and more. If you have a question or want to get in touch, our email is gutpunchedac@outlook.com.